Sometimes you can get some absolutely fantastic footage and scenes when you switch on social media, whether that be YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, doesn't really matter. Some of it is just living your best life, isn't it? But does that sometimes get a bit too much? Do you sometimes switch on these channels, a bit like mine, and get a wee bit jealous? I know I do. Well, in this video I'm going to be talking all about that, and maybe what real life is actually like for the majority of social media people and YouTubers. Stay tuned and I'll explain more. You've probably just seen some epic footage of sunsets and me standing on summits and what have you. And there's a reason for that, which I'm going to tell you about in just a minute. But this is going to be a slightly different video to normal. And I got this idea. I'd love to say it was my own idea for this video, but it was somebody on Instagram who was mentioning a few months ago. She's a climber and goes outdoors, and she's a nurse. But she was mentioning that every time you see people on social media, and this applies to me, you see them, living their best life, mountains, and in the sort of subject areas what you're looking at and I'm looking at, people on top of mountains, sunsets, sunrises, epic camp spots, epic hikes. But it's not always like that, and I think sometimes it can be, I don't know, it can affect people. They look at it, I mean, I'm guilty of this as well. I sometimes look at posts and I'm like, oh God, I wish I was there. How do they manage that? And you get this impression that that's all people do, and then I thought, well, people maybe think that about me, and I do know that some people think that this is my full-time job, and it's not. But the only time you ever see me is because I post pictures of mountains. The channel's called Scotland's Mountains, isn't it? I don't think you'd want to see pictures of me at my work or elsewhere, but that's going to be different this week, and leading up to this I'm going to be posting a whole load of different stuff on social media as well, and it's really just to look behind the scenes and what it is actually like. Doing YouTube, it's not all about the epic drone shots and mountain ridges, but there is a reason why I post that sort of stuff anyway. This video will probably look into that, and maybe give you an insight as to actually how much time I spend doing stuff for YouTube, and a wee insight into what my life involves. And I think this, although this is specifically about my story, I think this will apply to 99% of people that you watch on YouTube, because most of those people aren't full-time YouTubers. Certainly from my perspective, the ones that I watch, there are a few who do it, and certainly in this space in the UK, there are very few people that can stay there. Oh dear. Yeah. Right. Leaving the family to sleep in there, get my coffee. Right, we're about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months down the line from when you last saw me. And I don't know if I even went into where I was the last time. We were up at Glenshee in a lodge, and I had a bit of a equipment malfunction, which is another thing which you usually don't hear about, and another worry, and something that the social media people don't talk about as much as when things go wrong and having to look after your equipment. But my sound system, my microphone jack and the camera stopped working, so that was the end of that, and it's been a bit of an issue on the trips in between. So in between I've been on some epic trips. I had the Millardic round where I saw the most amazing Northern Light display. I'll put a link to that video in the description below, and did the West Highland Way, or half of the West Highland Way. Had quite a few great winter adventures. But yeah, I'm out with the family again, which I've talked about. Another thing which we need to balance. But I'm going to have this coffee and go for a wee donder, and I'll show you where I am, and we'll go into some other bits and bobs which I never got round to talking about in terms of what us YouTubers don't usually show you or talk about. Right, finish this then we'll get going. I'll be back in a wee while. Yeah, let's go for a wee donder. Oh wow, what a lovely spot this is. And the last time I was here was actually with Thomas Seaton. We did a camp in the forest and I went up this hill that you can probably see in your picture just now. I think there was something called the Bloodstone, or some stone which marked some sort of battle or clan. But anyway, we came up last night and settled down. It was a bit of a hairy journey up, lots of rain, lots of wind. But that's something else which I suppose YouTubers and the other side of YouTube that you don't see is I try and put a video out every week, because sometimes it's just not possible to get into the hills, whether that's due to family commitments like I'll talk about in a wee while, or I've already talked about. I can't remember what I've talked about 4 or 5 months ago, which would have been a few minutes to you, but 4 or 5 months ago to me. So if I repeat myself, I do apologise. But yeah, sometimes it's just not possible to get out onto the high tops, and that's one of the reasons why I've chosen to do this video today, because I can't get up there. The forecast for the tops is 60 or 70 mile an hour winds, and you can't stand up in those conditions. And I don't fancy crawling across the plateau to do a video for you guys, so I'm just going to be down here, and later on, which I won't video, I'm going to be going round the loch with the dogs, with the family. I've left them in the van just now, they're still sleeping, so yeah, let's go on a wee bit further and I'll talk a wee bit more about some other stuff. Well, the water levels are quite high. You can probably hear the water rushing out of the loch here. It's lovely. Well, the other thing that we sometimes don't tell you, which isn't very glamorous, is when you're seeing this, I've spent hours and hours. I've probably spent a lot more time editing this sat in front of the computer, looking at a computer screen, sat on my bum inside, than I've actually spent out here filming it. And that's a big part of it, I think. It's boring, there's nothing exciting about it at all, but it's probably the most important part. If you can't spend time editing, the footage just doesn't matter how good it is, you can't sort of piece it together, it's not going to be any good or watchable. So yeah, that's just something else you need to be, to be aware of. It's not all sitting out in the great outdoors, although I am enjoying myself. There's a brisk wind. I had a few beers in the van last night, so it's blown away any cobwebs, which is lovely. Absolutely beautiful. Right, let's go a bit further. Oh, this is lovely. So I don't know if I've actually told you where I am. This is Loch Enelan, and I'm in the Cairngorms National Park. It's beautiful, and did I say earlier on where I was at the start of the video? It was Glen Shee 4 or 5 months ago. We stayed at a lodge there, so I'm with the family again. And I think I mentioned this, or I would have mentioned it, one of the most difficult parts of doing YouTube, especially when you're working a full-time job as well, is trying to get that balance with the family and spend some time with them, because that's the biggest adventure any of us ever do, isn't it? Is to have a family and try to spend some time with them in between filming, doing my 9 to 5 job, and editing can be quite hard. So today I'm doing both. Two birds with one stone, as they say. That really is difficult, and family, it really is the most important thing, and it's the biggest adventure any of us will ever go on. It's bigger than any adventure you can do, going up the hills or anything like that, and yeah, it's a wonderful thing. And yeah, it's also a big commitment. The highs and the lows that you have through family life are higher, tenfold, hundredfold, 1,000-fold more exaggerated than anything we could experience in the hills. But anyway, let's go on a wee bit further into the forest, and I'll talk a wee bit about gear and how that's definitely not sexy and quite sore on the purse strings. Oh, what a lovely spot. Yeah, so I alluded to it earlier on when I was talking about how my camera broke with the microphones, and that, you know, the cost of the equipment, even if it's just an action cam, isn't fun. And the PC, the stuff that you need to edit it on, you can do it on your phones, but I'm old school. I like to do it on my on my PC, and you have to buy the software to edit it. So the cost of it it's not cheap. I mean, I don't make much money. I do have the AdSense running, and that's it. But that wouldn't even cost, you know, the cost I get for this video, for instance, the AdSense revenue that I'd get for this wouldn't even cover the petrol money one way from where I live to Aviemore, where we are. So you can't do it if you're in it for the money, but that's certainly not a glamorous side of things. People think gear is all sexy, and yeah, maybe people do get excited by that sort of stuff. I'm afraid I don't. I'd rather be out and about documenting my walks with the gear as opposed to talking about it, which is a bit hypocritical of me because I'm talking about it right now. But you know what I mean, right? So yeah, that's another thing which which maybe isn't talked about too much is the cost of it. And then you've got the other associated costs like the travelling up here, and I suppose buying all the gear. Again, I think everyone's got this, I don't know, preconception of YouTubers that they get all their gear free from companies. I certainly don't. I do get a daily basis. I get contacted by companies, not always outdoor gear companies. I get some weird and wonderful ones, but I've never really gone down that route. It's just not for me. I don't want to be kind of pressurised into. I don't know if I feel pressurised into saying positive things if I'm getting gear given to me, even though you're not getting paid for it. I don't know, but maybe in the future I will go down that route if I ever do go full time. But yeah, I'm not full time. I'm full time in another job, and that's another thing which the majority of YouTubers maybe don't talk about. Right, let's go. All right, I've been rambling on for a wee while now. I'm going to start heading back to the van, but work, that's the next thing. Yeah, so I think in this kind of YouTube community where people do outdoor stuff, especially in Scotland, I don't know if there's anyone that is full time. So I'm probably wrong with that, but the majority, I'd say 95% of the people that I watch on YouTube do it as a hobby, like me, which means they've got a whole other life. I mean, I'd say 90% of my time, outside my family time that is concentrated on my main job, my 9 to 5. 9 to 5 is an interesting concept, isn't it? Certainly not 9 to 5, but anyway, my main job, which means 10% of the time of my life is what you see. So it's not, my life's completely different to what your perception of what my life is, because your perception of my life is just like we're going back to the whole point of this video, is being out here in nature and standing on top of mountains, watching epic sunrises and northern lights and all this stuff, which everyone's like, wow, and it is wow, and when it does happen, it's amazing, but it's not all like that. I live the 90% of the time of my time that's not on top of a mountain, not watching the northern lights, is very mundane. It's very Joe Blogs, John Smith, 2.5, family and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I think that's the whole point of this video, is just to, it's quite easy to get yourself down. And me too, when I look at Instagram, for instance, I think Instagram's probably the worst perpetrator of that sort of stuff, the epic living your best life stuff. I get sucked into it as well. I get jealous when I'm sat in my 9 to 5 job and I see a post, somebody's on top of a snowy mountain. And then, when I think about it, you guys are doing the same. If you tune in on a Wednesday night, there's me on top of a snowy mountain. And yeah, so this week's different. This is the real me. Even though I'm outside this now, you'll see some footage of me working or spending time with the family. Right, I don't know if there's anything else I need to go over. I will come back if there is, but time to go and get my second coffee and wake up my son and my wife for a walk round the loch with the dogs. Lovely. You can see the wind coming in across the loch, the ripples of the wind, and then it hits you. It's very gusty. Anyway, a final thing I think I'd say on this topic is probably it's a wee bit of stress. I don't tend to get stressed, but the stress of trying to get the videos right and trying to reply to as many comments as possible. I do my best. I know I can't reply to them all, but I do my best. I certainly read them all, but along with Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and YouTube. That's probably the 4 that I'm on. I get so many comments, and if I don't reply to you, it's not personal. It's just I don't have the time. But again, that can be a stressy thing. You can feel like you're letting people down if you don't get back in touch with them. But sometimes it's, you know, if I'm making tea for the kids and I'm halfway through doing the comments, I'm afraid feeding my family is more important than answering a YouTube comment. And yeah, I think you've got to have a thick skin. You know, if you come into this, certainly not worthwhile coming in here if you get easily offended, because sometimes you get real trolls. YouTube hide user from channel is a fantastic thing, by the way. I love it. That's my trolling back to the trolls, because that means they can still see the comment, but nobody else can see it. And I just have this picture in my mind's eye of this troll going back to see if anybody's taken his bait or her bait to the comment that he's made, and realising nobody's commented at all. I think it's great. So YouTube, keep it up. That's a fantastic feature. But yeah, I tend not to get bothered by bad comments. Yeah, that is what it is, and I never respond to them. And if you're a YouTuber watching this, don't respond. That's what they want. It's not worth it. So yeah. Anyway, right, I'm going to shut up now. I'm kind of waffling a wee bit, but yeah, it's not all glamour. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not all beautiful, standing on top of mountaintops and cracking weather. It can, you know, there's all these other things which go on. So just remember that, and I'm telling myself that as well when I'm looking at all these posts on social media. So let's get back, see the family, have a coffee, and yeah, if you have made it this far, if this is your first video of mine watching, of mine, God, my English is terrible. This is the first time watching one of my videos, that's better. They're not usually like this. They're usually up in the hills. Not always in ideal conditions, because you can't go up into the Scottish hills week in, week out and get beautiful sunrises, northern lights. So sometimes it's in gnarly conditions, but today would have been too gnarly. So yeah, shut up, Murray. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much for watching, as always. I do really appreciate you all for watching and commenting and all that sort of stuff. It means a lot to me. Stay safe out there. I'll see you next Wednesday for a more normal adventure. Right, family time. We're all up. How are we doing, alright?